Something unusual is happening in the crypto market. Bitcoin is falling, altcoins are bleeding, fear is spreading fast. But behind all this chaos, there's a deeper story, one that connects power, money, influence, and trust. And strangely, an old controversial name has returned to public discussion: Jeffrey Epstein. Now, before jumping to conclusions, let's slow down and understand this properly, with facts, not rumors. Because this story is not about scandals alone. It is about how markets react to fear, liquidity, and human psychology. Jeffrey Epstein was a wealthy financier with powerful connections. For many years, he moved in elite circles: politicians, businessmen, academics. After his arrest in 2019 and his death in jail, investigations continued. Years later, court documents and email records were released to the public. These documents are often called the Epstein Files. They do not automatically mean crimes. They mostly show who interacted, met, or communicated with Epstein at different times. This is important to understand. Recently, one old email from 2010 went viral. It was written by Epstein's publicist discussing a meeting with Michael Saylor, a tech entrepreneur who later became one of Bitcoin's strongest supporters. At the time of that meeting, Michael Saylor was not involved in Bitcoin. Bitcoin itself was still very early and unknown. The email does not accuse him of any crime. In fact, it describes him as socially awkward, uninterested in status, and difficult to influence. Ironically, the email suggests that he had no obvious weaknesses to exploit. This detail went viral not because of wrongdoing, but because it showed how disconnected Saylor was from the usual elite social games. So let's be very clear. There is no evidence that Bitcoin, crypto, or Michael Saylor had any operational connection to Epstein. Bitcoin did not crash because of Epstein news. That is not how markets work. The real reasons are much bigger and much more important. The real issue right now is liquidity. Liquidity means how much money is flowing through the financial system. When liquidity increases, risk assets like Bitcoin usually rise. When liquidity dries up, markets fall. And right now, liquidity is being drained aggressively. According to macro analysts, nearly $300 billion has been pulled out of the system recently. A major reason is the U.S. Treasury increasing its Treasury General Account, also known as the TGA. When the government moves money into the TGA, it pulls cash out of markets. Less cash means less risk-taking, and Bitcoin is a liquidity-sensitive asset. So when liquidity falls, Bitcoin feels the pressure first. At the same time, we're seeing signs of financial stress, reports of bank failures, tight lending conditions, global uncertainty. Add to that the risk of a U.S. government shutdown, and markets naturally move into fear mode. This is not about headlines. This is about money flow. Another pressure point is regulation. Banks and lobbying groups are pushing back hard against crypto, especially stablecoins. Why? Because stablecoins offer yield and fast payments, things traditional banks control. Some reports suggest banks fear losing trillions in deposits if crypto adoption grows. So what do? They push narratives, they run ad campaigns, they increase regulatory pressure. This creates fear in the short term, even if the technology remains strong. Now let's talk about Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin is down. Institutions are underwater. ETF buyers are feeling pain. This is the fourth consecutive down month, something not seen since 2018. But history matters. Every major Bitcoin crash in the past came during liquidity stress, and every recovery started when liquidity returned. Markets move in cycles. Bitcoin does not move on emotions, it moves on incentives. When money becomes cheap again, when fear fades, when liquidity returns, Bitcoin historically responds. This is why long-term investors focus less on noise and more on structure. So, what is the future of Bitcoin? No one can predict prices with certainty, but one thing is clear: Bitcoin was created for times like these, when trust in institutions weakens, when systems feel fragile, when money is controlled by a few. Bitcoin is not perfect, but it is transparent, it is global, and it is independent. The Epstein headlines may grab attention, but markets don't crash because of names. They crash because of liquidity, and they recover when conditions change. The real question is not about the past. The real question is this: when fear disappears and liquidity returns, who will be ready?